everybody keeps saying this is unprecedented time. Even people in their 90s or 100 that lived through the Depression and are saying, I've just never seen anything like this before. So it's super interesting. Yeah, so I'm so glad that you're here with us. We're live now. Larry, let's just chat for a little bit. We're going to keep letting some people add on with us here. It's going to take them a few minutes to come on, but we are streaming live on Facebook now. So everybody go share this on your Facebook page. Larry, you get us to share it on y'all's pages as well. I just want everybody to hear this fantastic talk that we're going to have. And
thanks for having me, Mary.
Yeah, just so glad that you were here. I think which is such an important time for us, and I think you're just going to have a great message to tell. So if you're signing on and you're coming on with us, we got some people coming on. I would love to see who's on. Let me tell you, Larry, who's coming on. S is on. That's awesome. JR and Vanessa are on. So awesome to see them too. I think you guys are all going to relate a lot to what we have to say today. But I want to start off saying that in case you guys didn't know, today is Thankful Thursday. You may be asking, what is Thankful Thursday? Remember, we used to have Throwback Thursday when everybody would put their pictures on. Now it's Thankful Thursday for our healthcare workers and our frontline people. So at 7 p.m., I don't know if you guys did it or not, once a week, they're asking us to go outside, bang some pans, make some noise so your neighbors and everybody will know that you are just so super thankful for what our frontline people are doing, especially our healthcare workers. And that may mean a whole, it's lab people, it's EMT, it's firefighters, all those people who are walking into harm's way every day. So I want you to know that we do appreciate you. But here's what I want to know. If you have a family or friend that is a healthcare worker, I would love for you to, maybe it's you, would you just give us a thumbs up down in the comment or say somebody's name? Because honestly, I would love just to send them a quick message and say, hey, found out that you are a healthcare worker and just want to tell you that we're super thankful. Say a prayer over them, that God's just going to keep them disease-free, keep them healthy. So if you will do that in our comments, we would absolutely love that. If you have not liked our Community Life page, please go ahead and do that now. Every time we go live, then you'll get a notification. We do that a couple of times a week. For sure, every Thursday night, I'm going to be doing an interview talking just about relevant things that we're enduring in our lives, maybe some people that are going to shine a new perspective for you, a Christian perspective, instead of just hearing the world's perspective. I want a little bit about God's perspective. All right, so
you're muted, Mary. You're muted. I can't hear you. Are you there now, Mary?
I'm there. Can you hear me?
There you go. I can hear you now. We're back.
It's a problem with your computer.
Technology's great when it works. Now I've lost you again. Still can't hear you.
We would just love to hear, God's view on that. So that would be coming up. But today I have a special friend with me. This is Larry Smith, and I can't wait for you to hear from Larry, hear a little bit about his life and the things that God has taught him. He's been a longtime member of the Met and involved for many years. And I can't wait for you to get to know him. I promise you by the end, you're going to be saying, oh, I feel like I know him and he's just one of my really good friends. So Larry, thanks for being here today, sharing your life with us.
Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Mary. It's my pleasure.
So to get started, I thought it would be fun to do a lightning round of a few questions so everyone can get to know you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here's your first question. Where did you grow up?
I was born in Garden Grove, California, and I lived in Southern California till I was 16, and then I moved to Plano when I was a sophomore in high school, and I've been in Texas ever since. So my roots are in California, but I love Texas, and I've been here ever since, and I enjoy it here. Met a lot of good friends and family, and obviously a great church home as a result.
You can never leave now. You can't go back,
Yeah.
right? All right,
I'm
number
not sure
two.
California would have me back.
All right, number two. Who is your hero?
That's an easy one for me. It's my father. My
Mm,
father and a mentor to me, not only in how to be a good husband and a good father myself, but also has helped me tremendously in my career as well. He's certainly not perfect, like all of us, but the good news is he has handled his shortcomings with grace, and he's a big believer in Jesus Christ as well. And to this day, we speak almost daily, and I'm grateful for him. And I'm sure he's watching right now. I love you, Dad.
well, you know what? That's a gift.
Yes.
That is a gift to have a dad that you can look up to. I know all the dads listening out there are thinking, "Oh, I hope my son says that about me one day." All right, what is your favorite food? Most importantly,
I only get to one.
top
I
two. You
like
can
all
go
foods.
top two.
If I had to pick one, I would probably say fajitas or steak. I enjoy both. I'm not a picky eater. I'll eat just about anything, and depending on what week you ask me, I ate it all, or in some weeks I didn't eat anything. So it just depends on what's going on in my life. Sometimes I let stress affect my eating habits, but I try not
Mm.
to.
All right, that's a good one. All right, favorite sports team.
Growing up in California and the fact that I played ball in high school and college, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Oh my word! In Dallas,
Close,
Cowboy
close
Terrier.
second is the Dallas Cowboys. So for us Texas folks here, now that I've been here a while, I am a big Cowboy fan. Matter of fact, I think they're choosing their first draft here shortly.
So maybe we'll go baseball, California, football, Dallas. All right.
The
Here's a
Texas
good one. What
football,
is your
yeah.
favorite book?
Wow. I probably would say the book that had the biggest impact on me was when I was really struggling in my life was a book by Joseph Prince called Unmerited Favor. It's about God's grace in our life. That was probably number one, but it's hard to pick one, Mary. You keep saying one. I really like the book The Shack because it's about forgiveness. And that was, and they actually did a movie on that as well. It's a great book. And then as part of the lead group that I was just absolutely blessed to participate, the book The Cure was
Mm,
my favorite in that series. So if I can have three, please, those are the
okay,
top three.
we'll go three. We'll go three. That's some good ideas if people are looking for a book. Well, I'm so inspired by your life, Larry. And I say that as a good friend and somebody who's walked alongside you for a long time because you've had hard times. You haven't had a perfect life, which is everybody can relate to. But what I've seen with you is you continually pour into other people regardless of that. I've watched you do that at our church with people. I've referred many people, given them your phone number, asked you to call them. And what I love about you is you serve them, you love them, you encourage them, you challenge them, but you're honest with them. And I have literally heard you say, "Hey," I'm saying, "Hey, has so and so contacted you?" And you'll say, "Mary, they haven't hit the bottom yet. They're not ready." So I appreciate that about you, but I know sometimes that's a difficult thing to do, and I wonder what within you inspires you year after year to continue your life, to pour into other people and tell them about what God's done for you and how your past shaped you one way, but because of God, it shaped your future in a new way.
It's a
So tell us
great
a little bit
question.
about your testimony and what
It's,
God did with that in your life.
you bet. It's a great question, and it's an easy answer. Uh, I try to give back what was so freely given me. There were men before me that poured into me, both in and out of church, both in and out of recovery, that really showed me the way because I was lost. I was really lost, and I've been a Christian. I want to preface this: I've been a Christian since I was 12, but in my young adulthood, I just started making bad choices And those bad choices led to some really destructive behaviors. And as a result of that, I hit a bottom. And I could still go back and keep digging, trust me, but I hit a pretty hard bottom. And as a result, I had to climb out of that pit. And men before me showed me the way. And I'm so grateful for all of them. And I could name all of their names right now that truly impacted me. But due to anonymity, I'll leave that, leave that alone. But today, others' anonymity is important to me, but mine is not. And here's why. God uses my mess, and he uses it as a message to inspire others and bring them hope. And it also, in the end, selfishly, it helps me to remind me of where I once was so I don't go back to that place again. This world is a difficult world to go through. It throws a lot of things at you, and you can get lost real quick if you don't surround yourself with good people. And I'm grateful that there are good people around me that continue to inspire, pour into me. I can't pour into others if I'm not being fed either. And I'm grateful that my church and my recovery life has a lot of men and women that pour into me, that inspire me to give back. And I'm grateful for that today. And I don't want to go back to that life again. I've had thoughts of that. My mind doesn't work very well. I have to be reminded of where I once was, and I have to stay around people that are in that place. And God has truly just blessed me to be able to be willing to share what I went through. And so, as I mentioned, my anonymity is not that important because God can't use my mess for a message of hope to others if I'm not willing to share that. And that's why I'm okay with being on here to talk about it. I'm not proud of where I once was, but I used what I went through to better myself, to grow stronger in my faith, and to allow God to use that to help others that are going through that. I didn't think of that when I was in my 20s or in my 30s or even in my early 40s. I never thought that God would use me the way that he does today, but I'm grateful for that. It's truly a blessing in my life. So thank you for the question.
Yeah. So as far as you feel comfortable, just because I want people to really understand that you struggled, can you share a little bit about what that looked like in your darkest times and how God brought you out of that?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that at all. I want to preface this with saying that I had a great childhood. I'm sure my folks are watching right now and they probably think, what did we do wrong? And they didn't do anything wrong. They did the best they could as a young married couple raising two children, raising a child. But I had a good life. When I got into college, I recognized some behaviors that I wasn't really happy with. I guess the best way to describe it was I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. And I turned to alcohol and drugs to make me feel okay. And I meandered through that and had some consequences, mostly emotionally and spiritually, but not health-wise, not legally, and things of that nature till later. So I went through literally 20-something years of my life drinking heavily, doing things I'm not proud of, but I didn't have any consequences. And I thought I was in control. And I want to say thought, the illusion of control of my life. Boy, did I realize that I had absolutely no control of my life. The only control I have today is what's inside this little hula hoop around me. But God showed me so much grace through my life. I wish, I look back, I wish I would have had the consequences I had in my 40s, in my 20s, because I wouldn't have wasted 20 years of my life on self-will run riot. So, not to go into a lot of details, but let's just say broken marriages, broken relationships with my kids, some legal trouble, some time behind bars, sometimes in treatment centers, more than I care to admit on this call. And I really took my life twice. And I'm not proud of that, but I've had some depression to the point where I wanted to take my own life. And I did that once in front of my wife and actually both times in front of my current wife, S. She had to watch that. And it's an awful place to live. And thankfully, I don't live there today. But I know there's others and maybe even some listening on the call today that have been in a very dark place. And I will tell you, there is amazing beauty on the other side if you're willing to ask for help. And I'm grateful that I did.
Thanks for sharing that, Larry. And we've got different people listening, just like you said, with different issues, but we're all captive to something.
Yes,
I've been doing this long enough that it could be, some of it just looks worse, but in reality, it's all the same. It's all trying to numb something that only God can feel. And I know there's a ton of people out there. Maybe it's shopping, maybe it's gambling, maybe it's, I always say, for the Netflix, it's just binging on mindless things for us so we don't have to deal with what it is. But sometimes it's chemicals, right? Sometimes it's alcohol. So what do you say to that person who's saying, man, I've tried, I can't give it over to God. I can't get rid of this. What hope do you have for them?
Another great question, and we talked about this earlier, Mary, is that what brought me to my knees was alcohol. But reality, I have a lot more struggles than just alcohol. We talk about what is recovery look like in our life. We're all recovering from something. I love when Pastor Bill says we're all coming into something, we're in the middle of something, or just coming out of something.
Our big
Problem
look.
is it's not just the problem is not just one thing. Once we overcome one thing, it's something else. And I realized that yes, alcohol was something that I ran to in my life, but I still have way more struggles today. What keeps me in recovery today is not my desire to have a drink. It's really not. It's my desire to stay focused on God. Recovery is about putting God first in your life and following His will versus following your own will.
Mhm.
People that come into recovery meeting today, and not only at the MEP but other meetings, they recognize that alcohol or whatever it might be brought them to their knees, but they're struggling with their faith. They're struggling with fear. And, obviously the opposite of fear is to have faith. They're struggling with anger. That's one that I struggle with is anger, control issues, codependency. I'm not okay if you're not okay. That's something I struggle with as well with my wife S. There's some things with idolatry. You mentioned earlier, we're all, worshiping something. Are we worshiping the right thing? What are we putting first in our life? I've been accused of being a workaholic today. I've been accused of chasing the almighty dollar. So I'm putting money first in my life. I have to stay focused that God is where I should be chasing, and He'll take care of the rest. I don't have to live in fear. I don't have to control things and other people in my life. I let God take care of that. He does a much better job than I do. I don't have to act out in circumstances and situations that baffle me. I allow God to take care of all that. Now, I say these things, they sound really good on the surface, and I can, quote and read you all the good stuff. But every day is a struggle for me not to act out that way. And that's why I have to stay focused on recovery. I have to stay focused on God. And in this crazy time right now, it's even more important because fear is absolutely petrifying all of us about what's going to happen with my job and what's going to happen in my career and what about my kids, what about my adult parents and all these things. And so we get crippled with fear. And when we're in fear, Mary, we make bad decisions. We all make bad decisions when we're in fear.
Mhm.
We have to focus on God. And when we focus on Him, the fear dissipates. And when the fear dissipates, when we trust in Him, it's going to be okay. It always is. If we rely on Him, it's going to be okay. It might be painful, but it's going to be okay. I hope that
Well,
answers your
I think
question.
that's such a good word, what you were saying about fear, because as I talk to people, they're not necessarily saying I'm fearful, but they're saying I've lost so much money in my 401k. What am I going to do? Or I've had to take a pay cut. Not sure if my next is the job on the, coming up, if I'm going to be the next one to lose my job, or, I'm fearful that I'm going to catch this virus and die. So, what do you say to those people, Larry? Because literally you struggle with this every day of your life. How in the world do you get up in the morning and keep that fear from not overruling your decisions, your emotions, and how you live your life?
Um, some people call it anxiety, some people call it fear, whatever moniker you want to attach to it. It's that I am focused on what I can do. And it's not supposed to be about what I could do. God's going to give me direction. And in my prayers and in my meditation, He's going to share with me what He needs from me that day. I can't focus on next week. I can't focus on next month or even next year. I have to focus on what God wants from me today. And the beauty about all this that's going on is God has allowed me to be a beacon of light for those that are struggling with that. Now, I'm not saying I don't struggle. I do. I have tools and resources that I've learned I lean on today when I have those feelings. And so to share with others is that if you don't recognize that God is in all of this, I encourage you to dive into the Word. There is a million references to what we should be doing when we're living in fear and anxiety. I could quote you, I could Google it right now and give you 50 scriptures to read about what's going on today and how we're supposed to respond. And as a Christian man that is part of recovery, it's important for me that I inspire hope and to not focus on the fear and to take your eyes off of what's happening right in front of us and recognize that no matter what you're going through, in the end, God always provides. It may not be the way you envision, it may not be the way you like, but in the end, He knows what's best for us. And I have to remember that. We talk about living one day at a time, and sometimes it's 1 minute at a time. And the fear of unknown, that's the hardest for all of us because we all want to know the answer. Here's the good news. When you read the end of the Bible in Revelations, guess what? We win. We win. That's what I got to focus on. I'm just
Well, I
passing.
remember too, when we talked just a few minutes before everybody else got on, share a little bit about how you get your day started, reading your Bible, listening to people, calibrating your mind, what you're not getting up, turning on the news, watching that ticker tape of how many people have the virus, how many people have died today. If we all start our day focusing on that, I think we're all going to be a little bit fearful.
No, I would agree with that. And that's you talk about being built up, you know, you pour into people, people pour into you. And it doesn't have to be somebody that I necessarily know that can pour into me. You know, it's a natural act for probably a lot of us listening right here. I get up in the morning, I have my cup of coffee, and I'm scrolling through Facebook. You know, what's going on? What did I miss? And I try not to focus on that. People ask if I'm on Facebook. Yes, I'm on Facebook. Well, did you see my post? Did you see? I don't really follow a lot of people and what they're doing in their life because there's just some stuff I don't want to fill my head with. No offense to anybody out there that posts those kinds of things, but I really have marked and earmarked on Facebook for all the things to come through. First and foremost is Rob's post on the Met. I mentioned earlier Joseph Prince and his post, Jesus Calling, Rick Warren, who is a big follower and leader of recovery in California. And there's just many verses and stuff that I get to see, and I can read those things and then turn to my Bible and instead of reading them and taking them out of context, where is that coming from? And to dive deeper into that. So I'm filling my head spiritually because, you know, if I focus on God instead of the world and what's going on in the news, if I watch the news, I would be crippled with fear too. I don't need to know what's going on outside my, you know, my neighborhood or in New York or in Italy. I mean, it's great to be knowledgeable about what's going on. I don't want to put my ostrich head in the sand. But if I'm focusing on those things instead of focusing on what God has in store for me today, I'm missing the blessings. I'm missing the miracles. I'm missing the opportunity to give back. And so I try to focus on what's going on there. And then the most important thing is prayer is important and it's good to pray. And I try to pray throughout the day, Mary. Sometimes it's a 1 second prayer, a 1 minute prayer, a 5 minute prayer. And I set aside about 10 to 15 minutes in the morning after prayer and to meditate. And I have a room that I go to and I meditate on that. But the most important thing is that when I'm doing my prayers and meditations, I'm truly listening to what God has in store for me. How can I be of service to Him? If I am being and acting out in a selfless manner instead of a selfish manner, I'm going to be okay. So I'm filling my head spiritually with the right things. I'm praying for others. I'm asking for what God has in store for me, and I'm staying connected with God throughout the day. Hey, you know what? This is something I want to share. If I'm going to have a relationship with a friend, a spouse, a girlfriend, whatever it is that you've got going on, you've got relationships. I'm guessing if you have a relationship with someone, you're probably communicating with them in some form or fashion, via text messages, emails, phone calls, visits, whatever it might be. How do I expect to have a relationship with God and His Son and the Holy Spirit if I'm not communicating with them throughout the day? It's so important. If you want to have a strong relationship, it involves communication. Are you communicating with God today? And if so, how often? And are you listening in return? I can't say it any easier than that.
And that's such a good word. And I think we all have this place in our heart where only God can come, that we can share our true feelings in our life with. And it's so important to do that. One of these interviews, we're going to talk about prayer, and exactly, some people are going, I've tried that. Don't know the best way to do it, but we're going to give you some tools to do that. Well, Larry, I am just so thankful that you are here in the darkness, because we are in darkness right now as we're in this pandemic and unknown. I've been just shocked at even the people who have been alive a really long time are saying, I don't even know about this. We've never just seen anything like this. And it seems to be a dark time, but what I'm more moved about and God has really just been showing me and lighting up my heart about is when I'm seeing people that are on our Facebook page or family members who haven't really been seeking God before that are saying, you know, okay, I get it. I was really living all for me and I'm kind of tired of living for me. And I really want to know this God now. So I don't think God caused this. Somebody was asking me, you know, the other day, where's God in all of this? People are dying. You know, where's God? You know, with the wave of his hand, he could get rid of this. And back to all the many questions we don't understand. But here's what I know. I know that God looked at it and said, I'm going to use this for good. I am going to
Yes,
be
always
present,
does.
share with so many people, comfort people. I think we're going to have a resurgence of people coming back to faith, reading their Bibles, upping their spiritual life because it's been in darkness for so long. I don't say that as a creepy thing. I say it just as a wonderful, we just see it. People are more loving. It's super encouraging, especially for believers that we do have, you know, we have a hope that other people don't have. And Larry, you do that all the time with your recovery group. We're just kind of seeing people a little bit more in a hurting place. But honestly, that's a daily, weekly walk for you, you know,
Yes, it
because
is.
you see people at the end of their rope that are in fearful and places. And I just am encouraged that you continue to tell them there's a God who loves them more than they will ever know, to trust him, to trust
Yes,
in
bro.
him and to follow him because we're looking for a fix. So I also know a little thing about you that I want you to share a little bit about, that you have a very special life group. And I know a few people and they would say theirs is the absolute best life group, but share a little bit about your life group. And I remember you and S came to me saying, man, we're leading all of these groups, Mary, we're empty. Can you help us find a group of people who can pour into you? And I was like, I know the perfect group. So
Yes.
tell everybody listening, maybe they're not in a life group and maybe they don't have people around them, just how important this is and what it's done for you and S.
No, it's a great question. I wanted to just respond real quick, Mary, to what you
Sure.
said earlier about, where people are at with this pandemic. This is unprecedented times. I would venture to say that this has happened before throughout times. And I will tell you that God doesn't create this mess. He doesn't. This is not God's will to have these things happen. Remember, we're just here temporarily. We're all passing through to a better place. But I can't wait to see what God does with all of this that's going on. Families strengthening, families coming together, new job opportunities, new relationships with God as they, run to faith instead of their fear. Time alone to spend with him. There's going to be so many good things that I can't even fathom what's going to happen. But I look forward to seeing what God does with all of this and how that maybe brings our communities and our country stronger. I remember 9/11. I lived 9/11 in New York, and I see what our country did and how it responded. And I'm going to see this country do the same thing. I'm going to see our community do the same thing, and I know our church is going to do the same
Yeah, I
thing.
agree.
So I'm looking forward to that. As far as life group, it's funny you say that, Mary, because there are times that my ego gets in the way and I'm like, let me lead this and let me take on that and let me do this. And from whether it was Rooted to whether it was life group to whether it was recovery group or things you volunteered at church and doing stuff at the food bank, I've kind of done it all. And I've been grateful to do it. It's a great experience every time I do all of those things in any sort of capacity to serve the church and serve God. But there was a time when Wes and I were doing the life group, and we loved our initial life group that we went through with Rooted. I wasn't feeling the leadership part of that. And as I mentioned, I came to you and said, I need to step back. I need to just be a participant. I need to be fed instead of feeding. And so you connected us with Heather and Michael Thornton, who lead our life group, and the others that are part of that, Monica and Missy and the others and Crystal. They all got their own unique personalities. They all bring something special to the table. We've cried together, we've laughed together, but most importantly, we've prayed together. And we've done some studies together, and it's been nice to just be a participant. I know when we first initially joined the group, and as I'm smiling at S, it's like, oh boy, is this the group for us? But over time, organically, we've grown to love each and every one of them and glad to be part of the group. I will tell you that the prayers for one another at the end of the group, and then we send emails to each other, and we are group me, which is the ability to text out everybody. It's just nice to be connected. I need to be connected because my tendency is to isolate when I'm not feeling right, when I'm depressed, I have anxiety, I'm stressed out. And being in my men's group, being in life group, it doesn't allow me to be and isolate. And I'm grateful for that. There are times I'm not feeling it, but then I feel the love and I go, I know why I'm here. I know why I'm here. And I'm so grateful to each of them. And hopefully they're listening as well. I love you guys, and I'm grateful to be part of the group.
I'm sure they are, and I'm sure they're chiming in right now. We'll listen to what they're saying, how awesome their group is. All right, Larry, as we close today, I just wanted to talk about, I know better than to tell you one verse, because I think you're going to probably have a few, so that you're not going down to one answer. But share with us a few verses that have kept you grounded, that you go to when you start going, man, I'm feeling uneasy. I'm feeling, I need to look at something that I shouldn't, or drink something, or whatever it might be for you. What verses are the ones that you pull out that go, okay, God, I got you. Share those with everybody. And I sent those to Micah too. So we're going to post them on here. So if you don't write them down, it's okay. Just keep looking through the thread and you're going to get to see all the verses.
Yeah, Mary asked me to send her one Bible verse, and that's like asking me to only eat one, chip, a Dorito chip. Just not possible. But I will share this. I'll give kudos to my mother for this one, because when I was really in a dark place, she shared with me Psalms 91, which is the 911 prayer for me. That psalm really talks about being in a place that's difficult, and that God can be our refuge. And so that's always my go-to when I thankfully I don't go to those dark places anymore, but that was one that really helped me crawl out of that pit I once was. And because ego is something that I struggle with, which is why I never ask for help, I try to be more humble today. And I have a great mentor in my life who teaches me humility every time I meet with him. He's just such a humble man. And my dad is also a humble man. So I surround myself with people that can truly help me. But there's a verse, James 4:10, humble yourselves before God, and he will lift you up. And I want to reiterate, he will lift me up, not me. It's not me that's going to lift me up. It's God that lifts me up. That's a good one I enjoy. That's something we actually share as part of our recovery group in one of our steps. And then something else that's important I mentioned earlier about connecting with God throughout the day. If I want to have a relationship with God and with Christ, I need to communicate regularly. I need to stay in touch. I need to be filled. And this one here is Colossians 3:16, says, let the word of Christ dwell within you richly. Now, I say that if I don't know the word, how am I going to get to know the word? I have to read the word. Nobody says you have to sit down and read the Bible from cover to cover, but just pray before you read, open the Bible and see what God reveals. Because every time I do that, it's exactly what I needed to read for what I'm going through that day. It's that simple. That's two of them there. And you said I can do a couple of more. Romans 8:28. And he know that for those who love God, all things work together for good. That's a prayer you should be doing right now. Even though we don't know what's going to happen, it's all going to come together for good. And I can't wait to see what that looks like, not only in my life, but for those in my church community, those in my recovery community, and my extended family, to see what God does for each of them throughout this circumstance. So that's a good one. And then here's for those that are struggling with anxiety or fear today. Psalms 56:3. When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. That's a simple prayer to remember. It's a simple verse to remember. And then we were talking, Mary, earlier when we started, Isaiah 26:4, trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord God is an everlasting rock. Rob sings a song about that all the time, doesn't he? That's one of my favorite songs. And so those are verses that I turn to when I'm having some anxiety, when I'm having some fear. And I bet there's a lot of us on this call that might listen later on this, that they're having some struggles with that. So dig into your Bible and start looking at verses to inspire you. We need to be fed, and I encourage you to feed yourself and to reach out to others. Stay in your communities, and don't be afraid to talk about what's going on. That's what our recovery group's all about. It's a place where people can come and just talk about their feelings and what they're going through, so they can feel like they're part of something. And this church does an excellent job of connecting people to one another. And I encourage you, if you're not connected, to do and stay connected and get connected.
So important to have other people pouring in. Okay, I got a couple of verses. I have three that I wanted to share too. And you guys know this one, Jeremiah 29:11, and it says, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. So where we are right now, God's saying, hey, I have plans. Trust in me, I have plans. Philippians 1:6. Being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. I think sometimes we just give up going, God's saying, I'm not done yet. Get back up. And I'm going to have a path for you to walk in, and I have a purpose in it. And I just want you to put one step in front of the other. Larry, like you said, sometimes it's day by day, sometimes it's minute by minute. And God gives us what we need for the time, not extra. He's not going to give you enough for a week or a month, so you don't have to trust in him and to reach out to him. So we need to do that. Okay, last one, 2 Corinthians 4:17 and 18. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. And I was thinking a little bit about our lives this last few years, and I think, me included, we've all been focusing more on the temporary than the eternal, just because it was an easy life. And then once things are shaken up a little bit and we lose our confidence in ourselves a little bit to know that we need God, we start thinking, okay, I think I've had my eyes in the wrong place. I was talking to a mentor in one of my lead groups is young moms, and I love being with them and hearing what they're going through and hearing their challenges. And I absolutely have no challenges compared to them, two working people working 40 hours at home, homeschooling full time, and just the struggles that they're going through. And then what they're all telling me is, you know what though? We're not in the car from 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock running our kids around to practices, to dance, to gymnastics, to football, to baseball, to soccer, to hockey. And we feel like we've got our family back. I don't know. They're all saying, I don't know if we'll go back to that. So maybe there's going to be some really good. And that's another thing a lot of people are saying is we're playing games at night. We're having dinner as a family together. We've just been eating in the car, going through Chick-fil-A before or after, one of our games or practices. We just haven't sat down and talked face to face. And from somebody on the other side, and my kids who are 26 and 28, I'll tell you, most of them are not going pro, and it's really not going to matter. And what your kids are going to remember is the conversations that you've had with them, conversations face to face, the conversations where you're teaching them about faith, because that's our goal, is to raise our kids to have faith, to know about Jesus, to spend as much time talking about Jesus and taking them to church as we are the extracurricular activities. And I think that's one huge thing in the Christian world that has been brought to light of maybe we were a little unbalanced on this, and let's recalibrate. Let's be sure that we are focusing, our hearts and energy more towards Jesus. So super excited about that, Larry. Tell us, before we close here, just a little bit about the recovery group in case anybody here is interested or somebody in their family. Tell us what you're doing right now in COVID and what's going to look like in a few weeks.
Yeah, I like what you said earlier. Just to close on what you were sharing, that this world is just so busy being busy that we miss the little things that truly are important in our lives. And so it's a great reminder that in these times that we're down as far as the ability to commute and participate and be busy being busy, is to focus on the family and our loved ones, and to do that. I've had an opportunity to see my son, both my sons, and talk with my daughters on an app much like this, to communicate, not because either of us have the virus. We're just trying to be respectful of our authorities and respectful of others. I happen to be in a business that is essential, if you will. And so I get to communicate and get to be out and get to see people and talk to them about where's God in all this? And I'm so grateful that God gives me that opportunity. But as far as the recovery, I mentioned to you earlier, what brought me into recovery was my addiction to alcohol. But I've learned that that was really all but a symptom of what was really wrong with me. I just wasn't right on the inside. I was spiritually broken. And I try to encourage others that come into recovery is that what brought you here, but let's get to the root causes and conditions of really what's going on. And we often find that we're just broken spiritually, and we got to get back to following and living in God's will instead of our own. And so, as I mentioned earlier when we were talking, Mary, that people that come into the rooms often are broken. They're struggling with something, and it could be addiction. There's many of us in there that have had an addiction. But I'll tell you that those that have not had a drink or a drug for years, they still come, not because they're struggling with trying not to have a drink or pills. They come in there because they're struggling with fear. They come in there because they're struggling with anxiety. They're struggling with codependency. They're struggling with anger. So all these emotions that they're dealing with that often lead to bad choices and to broken relationships. We have people that come in there that are going through a divorce. We have some that come there with the loss of a loved one. And sometimes they come in just for one time, temporarily, to get some relief. But really what we try to do in the recovery group is not fix you. We try to get you to fixate on God. And we do that by sharing our experience, our strength, and our hope with others about what we've been through. I never want people to go through what I went through. It was awful, but it was what I needed. God gave me exactly what I needed. I was very stubborn and I needed to be broken down. And I'm grateful for that today. I'm grateful that I finally had the bid in and was broken, if you will. But others come in and they're struggling with something that doesn't have quite the severe consequences, but they still need to know that they're part of something, that people love them and will pray for them. We love them through it. We cry with them. We pray with them. No matter what your struggle is or what you're going through, it's just really a safe place. It's a safe place to come and listen. It's a safe place to come and share. There's no format or structure that you have to go by. We often have topics. We sometimes take the temperature of the room to see what people want to talk about. Matter of fact, a lot of the meetings I've been to is about the pandemic. I'm kind of tired of talking about it, but I'm not tired of talking about the fear that's associated with it. I'm not tired of talking about the anxiety that it's created because they've lost a job or they've lost their income and how that's impacting their family. That I can sink my teeth into. That I can understand. I've been there before. I can't control the pandemic, but I can help you see your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions, and I know who to point to. So, great question. Thank you, Mary.
Yes. So if they want to connect with you, how would they do that?
Well, we have a Facebook app on there, but it is private, so that anonymity is important. As I've shared with Micah and shared with Dallas and shared with Jordan, as well as you and Jessica, if you have a man or a woman that is struggling and they just want a safe place to go talk about it, they want prayers, they want people that understand what they're going through, you can give them my phone number or S's phone number to come on into the group and meet us. We don't bite. We're a very loving group, and obviously right now it's difficult because we can't be together. But when we come back and we're allowed to come back into the building again, we meet Monday nights at 7:00 and we go for an hour to hour and a half, depending on what's going on. Sometimes we've got 5 or 6 people. Sometimes we have 15 or 16 people. Just depends. I think the room should always be full because I think we're all struggling with something. But that's just my humble opinion. And just not all of us are ready to admit that they're struggling. But just know that I'm there and everybody in that group is there to love you and help you through that and point you in the right direction by sharing our experience.
That's awesome. And if you're out there, just communitylife@metchurch.com, that comes, to me, and I'll be sure it's all confidential. Honestly, of all the groups that we have, this is the truth. We keep attendance. I know who's attended, who hasn't, who's kind of fallen off. Are they sick? Is something going on? So we know to be good shepherds and take care of them, but not the recovery group. I've never even walked in there, have I, Larry? Honestly, don't even know who's in there.
So you're saying you don't have a struggle, Mary? You don't belong?
I do. I could come up with one, but I just want it to be a confidential and safe place for the people who need to come. And Larry has created that. So please build trust in that your trust will not be broken. Be brave. This could be the first day of the rest of your life. This could be the day that you've decided maybe it's time for me. I want to be there for my family. I want to be there for my wife or my husband. I want to, for my employer, I want to be the best employee. So I just encourage you to do that as well. It's such an important thing to do. If you're just joining in or you came in a little bit late, I want to ask a favor of you, a couple things. Will you share this onto your Facebook page? You never know who needed to hear this, who's hiding something that they just don't want to talk about, but are really wanting to make a change in their life. So important that we get to share the life-giving, life-changing news of Jesus. If you will just share that on your page, you don't have to say a word, just share that on your page. And today is Thankful Thursday, where we're thanking all of our healthcare workers. So if you didn't type it in the reply below, would you please tell me somebody tag them on this, tag their name. I would love to reach out to them and tell them thank you for serving and pray for them, that their family, that they stay safe. I know it's a scary thing for a lot of them. So thanks again, Larry. Let me pray us closed. I don't always pray on these, but I just really feel like today God's moving. He wants us to pray and just press into him tonight. So I'll do that really quick and then we'll leave. So God, thank you so much for each person that's on with us, maybe live, maybe later, Lord. I don't even know who everybody is, but I know that you do. And I know you have a plan and a purpose for everybody's future, that you are wrapping up their life and their present to be able to bring you glory and to serve other people. Keep us people of faith, keep us pressed into you, Lord. And like Larry said, let there not a day go by where we're not, I want to say opening our Bible or now getting on our Bible app, because there's so many great ones out there, recalibrating our minds to think as you would want us to think, Lord. We love you. Continue blessings on our nation, on our healthcare workers, especially all of the frontline people, Lord, our grocery store people. There's just, everybody seems to be a little bit uneasy, Lord. Keep us safe. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. Thank you, my friend Larry. Love doing ministry with you and S. Both Derek and I are just honored to get to walk alongside you guys, and great things ahead. I know God's still got more to come.
Yes. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate you having me on today. And I just encourage I encourage anybody. You are not bugging me. If you have questions, you have concerns, you want to inquire, it is part of what I do. It's what I love. I'm doing God's work. So don't rob me of that. If you have something that you want to talk about, something you need to share, please, I encourage you to reach out to any of the names I've mentioned before, including Mary on this call. I'd love to talk to you. You are not bothering me. It is an absolute pleasure to share my story and to listen to your story. So thank you again, Mary, for having me on the call.
Thanks, Larry. See y'all around the Met. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Mhm.